I had so many different lessons this week that my talk kept shifting almost daily. And what I realized when I got here this morning, because normally when that happens as the week goes on, it lands about Saturday, okay, this is what it's going to be about, and then by Sunday morning I'm solid. Instead, I showed up here, the only thing on my mind was what a long, strange trip it's been. And so I want to let you know that I'm really not sure where this talk is going today. I think it's about honesty. I think it's about going to different levels of honesty with ourselves in the midst of life and what unfolds in it, because life does have a way of unfolding in ways that I personally have never expected, didn't see coming, was unprepared for, and yet on some level have been prepared for, especially this week, because of this teaching. That this teaching has allowed me to be honest with myself in deeper and layered and deeper layers and deeper layers all the way through it. So it started out with my garden. And I wanted to tell you all about my garden, so I'm going to tell you a little about my garden. I don't know that's where we're going to land, but that's where I'm starting. I've been keeping my backyard now and the front yard been in this house a little over 3 years. I think this is our third summer there. The first summer, Elizabeth gave us a whole bunch of flowers and stuff, and I planted them all over the place, and some of them stuck, some of them didn't. And so last year, I decided that I would just let it go wild. And so I could see what I actually had, because the first year I spent a lot of time pulling weeds and then realized, why are they weeds? What makes them weeds? And then I let them grow and found out some of them were flowers. In fact, all of them were flowers. And I was like, I like flowers. That's what I wanted to plant anyway. Why am I pulling the weeds? Now, some of them are prettier than others. Some of them go over, so I made some choices around that, and that's what we do, right? We make choices in our lives. Every day, we're making choices. That's what makes us powerful, creative, spiritual beings, is our ability to make choices around whatever it is that's going on. And so last year, I got several complaints around not cutting my lawn and letting it, in the backyard, I had pretty much a forest. But I learned from it. I learned what I liked, what I didn't like, what I wanted to do different, so that this year I could manicure it better. A little. Because it turns out that what I like is wild. In fact, I like living that way. I like living wildly. And when I start feeling constrained, it starts feeling personal. It starts pushing against something in me that just wants to break free and do something different and be different. And thus I've had 97 jobs, right? I don't like being restrained and never been good at it. Now, here's the thing about it. What I was thinking this week is how we are not taught as kids to look into what it is we want. I wasn't. I don't remember ever being asked as a kid what I wanted. I remember being told, it's fine, they get to wander all they want, I'm good with it. That's wild. I like wild. Works for me. Doesn't work for everybody. It does not work for everybody. How wild I like to be. And so it's been fascinating to go through life. But here's the thing about it. Let me get back to what I was saying about as kids. We're not often asked, I wasn't often asked what it is I wanted. I remember being told fairly often what it is I wanted. In fact, I grew up loving dark meat. My brother and I, we'd fight over the legs. My sister, when she was old enough to fight with us too, we'd be fighting over the dark meat. And I found out when I was in my 30s, where my dad finally coughed up the truth about the whole thing. He said, the reason you guys like dark meat is because I like the white meat. And so we trained you to like the dark meat. So I was trained in what I liked, and I'm guessing I'm not the only one. Right? And so discovering what we really like, what we really want, is not easy. Given all the way through grade school, when I wanted to be wild and kept being, sometimes violently told that wasn't okay. For whatever reason, I still stood for it. But in some ways, I remember, and I've said this before, I remember a time when I first started traveling around doing talks at other centers, long before I was here. I would be introduced as the most authentic person that whoever was introducing me had ever met. And I remember thinking in the beginning that really wasn't true. I was simply being rebellious, and rebellious is not authentic. It's just the other side of the coin, right? Either you're somebody who goes along or you're somebody who rebels. Either one is not actually what you want. And so getting to what you want isn't easy. It hasn't been for me. And what I learned this week is it's also shifting and changing and moving in new ways that I didn't even know was possible, except as I get closer to what actually resonates with me. I've always thought the real question is, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? I've noticed that lots of times I can't answer that question, but sometimes I can feel a resonance to something. I can feel drawn to something. And when I do that, when I go with that, I'm this guy with a fairly high intellect. I've been told that my IQ is around 130, and I would rather use my intuition. I would rather feel it than think it. That is what's true for me. That's how I like to live. That's what keeps me wild. It doesn't mean I don't use my brain, but it does mean I don't lean on it. I lean on my intuition. I lean on that part of me that likes the wild. Not everybody's like that. You may not be like that. You may feel more resonance with your mind. You may feel more resonance in another way, but do you know? Do you know what that resonance is for you? Do you know what draws you? Because once you start to recognize that in yourself, that resonance of this is what pulls me, this is where I'm drawn to. I don't even know why. Lots of times, I don't know why I'm drawn to what I'm drawn to. I just know it's what I'm drawn to. And willing to trust it enough to see where it goes. And so what happened is, because I allowed what I did last year, which my neighbors were not happy about, this year I have a backyard that is popping with the exact flowers I really wanted to shine. My backyard is gorgeous this year, to me. Wouldn't be to everybody. It is to me. It is a representation of my inner being that I'm seeing out in the world. And in the end, I think that's what we're all looking for, a way of representing our inner self in the outer world, a way of bringing it forth. But to do that, the level of honesty you've got to be able to have with yourself, which is a fluid thing. This is what I've learned. This was a big lesson for me this week, is the fluidity in what is true for me. As I mentioned, I like things wild. As we grow as a center, there's more procedures that need to be put into place. Those procedures that are going into place feel like they're bumping up against me in a way I have felt very personal about it, like it's getting in the way of my wild. This week, I realized that wasn't true, but I wouldn't have been able to see it if I didn't take a deeper look at it. This week, I realized that what I was calling, let me be wild, don't get in my way, And all this stuff was really just me being a big baby. Your spiritual leader discovered he was being a big baby this week. And I laughed when I saw it. And I was like, oh my God, I have got to share this, because maybe some of you go through this too, where it's kind of embarrassing when you get to a place of realizing that the stand you've been making isn't really where you want to be standing. Isn't really the essence and resonance of who you are. Maybe it was. But the things shift. And then all of a sudden something new arises. But you don't get to see that something new if you're so darn sure this is who you are. And that's what I was doing. And I'm the guy who's up here every week saying, don't be so sure about who you are. And I was doing that. This was the week I caught it. And so I did some paperwork this week I've never done before for the center. And I did it without arguing about it. Maybe a little about the process, but not the end result. And it was okay, and I felt better about myself for it. I came out of it feeling better, and that's when I realized this is about resonance. Because it isn't about who we think we are, it's about what we resonate towards. And are we willing to move towards that without making it so solid, without making it this box? Which we tend to do when we think somebody's threatening who we think we are, which is exactly what I did. I felt threatened by who I thought I was, and so I made a boundary, a box that turned out, as I saw it this week, didn't even exist. And that's what's possible. And so I was feeling really good about that. And I'm looking at my garden, and I'm seeing its wildness, and I'm seeing how it came to be that way, because the other side of the coin is you also don't want to give yourself up. It isn't like there's no lines here at all. It isn't like I'm now just going to do anything and everything anybody else wants. That would be giving myself up. But it is being willing to ask the question in the moment as the thing arises, instead of trying to use some other thing from the past to pick into this moment. I mean, we do that a lot. We say, well, this is how it's been. This is how we always have done it. This is how it's supposed to be. And in doing so, we lose the possibility of what could be in that moment if we are willing to be fluid and fresh and alive in the moment. And question ourselves in terms of, is this still true for me? Or what do I resonate towards now? Is this still true for me? Or what do I resonate towards now? And so the week went on, and on Friday morning, pretty early, Ash left. For 3 weeks, she's at her sister's house, being with her family. And I don't really like being away from Ash. But she's now gone for 3 weeks. Now, here was the interesting part. I just finished telling you guys that I have spent my life living by my intuition, not my intellect. I woke up Friday morning as she's getting ready to leave with a theory that might fit into the unified field theory. For those of you who don't know what that is, there are 3 levels of physics. There's the astral level, in which things work a particular way. There's the macro level, which is our level, where things work a particular way. And then there's the quantum level, in which things work a different way. All 3 work different. The laws don't apply in one to the other 2. And so people, for 100 years, have been trying to come up with an equation, a math equation, that fit all 3, worked, and they call it the unified field theory. And Friday morning, I woke up with an idea about it. And so I have spent a good part of the last couple of days in the computer looking at these equations that people have done that are mind-boggling in terms of in terms of looking at how calculations on how galaxies are formed, calculations on entanglement and excitation of protons and atoms and things of that nature, and finding for myself if there is, just taking a look. And so this is my new hobby. Don't judge. I know how nerdy I am. And so I found it hilarious, since I've spent the last 50 years of my life or more disregarding my brain. And now all of a sudden, it's what's at the forefront of my new hobby. You don't know how you're going to change. You don't know what next could arise. I woke up with this idea, and I have been in heaven. That's the funniest part about it. I'm sitting there going through all these equations and looking at all this stuff and going, this is incredible. This is so much fun. Can you imagine saying that about a calculus equation? This is so much fun. You don't know. You don't know until the moment arises. And so I watched this movie last night because I thought of this analogy that happens in this movie. My wife, Ash, is not a fan of sappy romantic comedies. I am. And so this was a perfect time to watch one. It's called The Runaway Bride. And it's with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. It's about this woman who every time she gets up to the altar, at the last moment, runs. And she had done it 3 times at the beginning of the movie. That's the setup for the movie. And Richard Gere is a reporter who wants to go because he says something about her that gets him fired, then wants to go and find out what's the truth around this. And so what he does is he goes to all the exes, because she's about to try to get married again for the 4th time, goes around to the 3 exes and the 4th one who she's about to marry, and asks the question, what kind of eggs does she like? And they all answered, the same kind I like. It was a great example of somebody who doesn't know what they want. And so he, at some point in the movie, confronts her about that. I mean, she finds out that he's been going around asking about eggs. And she's like, why are you asking about eggs? Why are you asking about eggs? And he goes, because you don't actually know what kind of eggs you like. So she winds up at some point running away again, and then makes 20 different kinds of eggs and tastes them all, and at the end goes visits him and says, Benedict, I like eggs Benedict. I don't like the rest of them. Now she knows what she wants, what she likes, what she resonates towards. I love that. It takes some experimentation. To know really what I wanted in my backyard took me letting it get pretty wild. It may for you too, or it may be something different, but it does take some experimentation to get in the habit of, I resonate to this, I don't resonate to this feels right, this doesn't. Even if I don't understand it, this feels right, this doesn't. That's what's possible for all of us. When we are fluid, in the moment, and not bringing in with us, like I think I did a talk, I think it was 2 weeks ago, on how we bring our history with us, right? This is really a follow-up to that. And so one of the things I noticed in my garden this year is, as I've been working it and getting it to where I am loving it, all I'm doing is getting out of the way, making sure that the things that I want to grow have the most light. Instead of worrying about, am I pulling a root out? Am I pulling a weed out by its root? Am I getting all the way down to the root? I'm just making sure it's out of the way enough so the plant I want to grow has light. And it's working. And that hadn't dawned on me that that's probably how it works in our lives. It's not that we want to bypass the weeds. It's that we don't have to get all the way down to the root to have the good ones grow. That just getting those out of the way enough, focusing on the light of what it is we do want to grow in our lives, what we resonate towards and we want it to grow, that it has light. That's really the key to a life that continues to flourish more than it has. How much time a day are you spending on what you don't want, the weeds, or what you do want? And I'm not saying avoid what you don't want, especially if it's a bus, get out of the way. I'm saying that if you spend all your time looking at the bus, the odds are you're going to get hit by it anyway. You don't have to be pulling the roots of consciousness out, the things you don't want, to have the things in your consciousness you do want grow. All you got to do is keep giving it light. Keep nourishing it, just even a little. Ash is great at this. This is something that she is great at. She has this amazing ability to focus a certain amount of time every day on what she cares about and brings light to. I watch her. You know, she's as much a training and learning ground for me as my garden, much more so. She's the bigger training ground. She has a way of focusing on, she's got this work, right? It's called Sacred Sovereignty. But she also has two part-time jobs, one in the States, one here. She also teaches, and she also does private coaching. So where she finds the time, I don't know. But she does. She makes sure to nurture and water and give light to this work that matters to her, that is flowing through her right now, called Sacred Sovereignty. She has a WhatsApp group with almost 90 people in it at this point that she feeds with these rituals she's doing. And she does it because she makes sure that whatever else is going on, this gets light. That's how it works. Just make sure that what you say matters, you give light to, whether it be a relationship. I mean, if you really want to know about what you think matters in your life, look at where you spend your time. That's your best, and then decide, is this really where I want my focus? What we resonate towards needs nurturing too. To learn how to feel what it is without getting stuck in who you think you are takes sun, takes nurturance, takes time. If you're willing to put in that time, the changes may be slow, right? This is not the nuclear option. Some people, when it's time to change their lives, go for the nuclear option. The divorce, the change of venue. I've done that a few times, more than a few in my life. Now I'm looking at smaller, fine-tuning. And I notice that that can be so powerful for me in how I feel in myself. Because in the end of the day, how you feel in yourself is going to matter when you take that last breath. How you feel about how you spent your time here. So how you feel about what you're doing matters. Can you take the time to check on that, to be that deeply honest with yourself regularly? Because that's what it takes. To be this level of honest. I did cycle it back. I did good. Okay. To be that level of honest. I'm sorry. It's been a heck of a week. Really takes time. The time to shed light, the time to nurture. But it doesn't take all day. Even if it's just for a few minutes a day, it will make a difference. Any minutes you put towards it is better than not putting any minutes towards it at all. So don't think, oh, because I can't do it a lot, that means it's not worth doing. Gardens grow so much without us doing anything. We got to do some things, but most of the work is happening behind the scenes when we're doing something else. And I've learned that lesson, that that's true about anything I want to grow. That it's working, it's moving, it's happening. Even when I'm not there with it, as long as I'm paying it enough attention that it doesn't die on the vine. Right? As long as we're paying it enough so it's not dying, it's going to be nurtured and it's going to grow. I got snake plants this high now. I'm really grateful for it inside. I had no idea they could grow that tall. What's possible is beyond my imagination. It may be beyond yours as well. Are you open to possibility? Are you open to watering and giving sun to that which is deepest in you, that which resonates, that which is the most beautiful? I find you all beautiful, and I'm really glad you're here. Thank you. I love you.